Spring 1906, Fifth Avenue, New York City. A Stanford white masterpiece rises 5 stories above Manhattan's most prestigious block. 230 windows catch the morning sun, each one framed in carved limestone that cost more per square foot than most Americans earned in a year. 70 rooms, 12 bathrooms with solid silver fixtures. A marble staircase that required 16 months just to install. But inside these Beaux-Arts walls, servants whisper about bills arriving by the stack, about coal deliveries that never stop, about a family burning through a fortune just to keep the lights on. The monthly operational cost, $15,000, equivalent to $500,000 today. How long could even a shipping empire sustain this? Stand at the corner of Fifth Avenue and 68th Street today, and you'll see nothing. An apartment building from the 1950s, anonymous and efficient, occupies the space. But in your mind's eye, reconstruct what once commanded this corner. The William C. Whitney Mansion, perhaps the most extravagant private residence ever built in Manhattan during the Gilded Age's final feverish decade. The statistics alone stagger. Construction began in 1899 and consumed 4 years. Stanford White, America's most celebrated architect, designed every detail, from the bronze door handles cast in Paris to the ballroom ceiling, imported panel by panel from a Venetian palazzo. The building stretched 90 feet along Fifth Avenue, 200 feet deep on 68th Street. Those 230 windows weren't merely glass and frame. Each was a statement, a calculated assertion of dominance in a neighborhood where mansions competed like battleships in an arms race of marble and gilt. The front doors, 20 feet tall, carved mahogany with bronze overlays depicting scenes from Greek mythology, required 4 men to open them on hinge mechanisms engineered like bank vaults. Beyond them, an entrance hall rose 3 stories, wrapped in canstone quarried from the same source that built French cathedrals. 16 varieties of imported marble decorated the ground floor alone. The grand staircase, carved from single blocks of Sienna marble, curved upward in a gesture of such confident opulence that visitors reportedly stopped breathing when they first saw it. But that's just the facade, the performance visible to society photographers and gossip columnists. Behind the scenes, the Whitney Mansion functioned as a vertical factory of luxury maintenance. The basement stretched as deep as the building rose high, a subterranean city housing coal bunkers that held 40 tons, requiring delivery trucks twice weekly, boiler rooms with machinery that roared like locomotives, staff quarters for 43 live-in servants, butlers, footmen, ladies' maids, scullery maids, cooks, laundresses, chauffeurs, stable hands for the carriage house that occupied a separate building behind the main house. The monthly coal bill alone, $1,200 and $1,906, would equal $40,000 today. Gas lighting throughout 70 rooms, even after electricity arrived, because Whitney preferred the softer glow for entertaining. Fresh flowers delivered daily from hothouses in New Jersey, $300 monthly. The household employed a full-time upholsterer whose sole job involved maintaining curtains, chair coverings, and the miles of silk damask that lined walls. William C. Whitney, master of this universe, had built the ultimate symbol of American aristocratic aspiration. He had arrived, but he didn't know it yet. He had also built a trap. And within a generation, the mathematics of grandeur would prove more ruthless than any competitor he'd faced in business. How did this happen? How does a mansion become a millstone? To understand the mansion, you must first understand the man and the moment that shaped him. William Collins Whitney was born in 1841 to a respectable but not wealthy Massachusetts family. Brilliant, charismatic, ruthlessly ambitious, he graduated from Yale, practiced law, then made his first fortune consolidating New York City's chaotic streetcar lines in the 1880s, but money wasn't the point. Whitney wanted something money couldn't directly buy: social supremacy in an America that claimed not to have aristocracy but absolutely did. In the 1890s, New York's old Knickerbocker family's Astors, Vanderbilts, Roosevelts were being challenged by new fortunes in steel, oil, and railroads. The battleground wasn't business. It was Fifth Avenue, specifically the stretch between 50th and 72nd, streets that society columnists called Millionaire's Row. Here mansions functioned as three-dimensional scorecards. Each new construction had to surpass the last in scale, artistry, and most importantly, in the unspoken currency of social validation. Whitney's first wife, Flora, died in 1893. He remarried in 1896 to Edith Randolph, a society beauty, and decided to build not just a home, but a monument, something that would cement his position at the absolute apex of American society. He commissioned Stanford White, the era's architectural superstar, fresh from designing the Washington Square Arch and transforming Madison Square Garden into a palace of entertainment. White understood the assignment perfectly. This wasn't to be merely large, it had to be flawless. Every material sourced from the world's finest quarries and workshops. Marble from Italy, carved by artisans whose families had worked stone since the Renaissance. Bronze work from Paris, where Whitney maintained purchasing agents, scouring antique shops and bankrupted chateaux for architectural elements. The ballroom ceiling, an 18th century masterpiece from Venice, required 9 months just to disassemble, crate, ship across the Atlantic, and reassemble. Construction employed between 200 and 300 workers at any given time over 4 years. Master stonemasons earned $6 daily excellent wages, but the project consumed $2 million by completion in 1903, roughly $68 million today. For context, the average American home cost $3,000. Whitney micromanaged obsessively. He rejected entire batches of limestone because the color varied by a shade. He ordered a completed staircase torn out and rebuilt because the proportions displeased him after installation. He maintained suites at the old Waldorf Astoria, where he met weekly with White, reviewing drawings and material samples like a general planning a campaign. And campaign it was. Every decision served strategic social purposes. The ballroom could accommodate 300 guests, larger than the Astors. The art gallery on the 3rd floor displayed Old Masters Whitney, acquired in Europe, cultural legitimacy purchased by the painting. The library housed 12,000 leather-bound volumes, many unread but essential props in the theater of cultivation. The staff structure mimicked European aristocratic households. A butler commanded the male servants, a housekeeper the female, with rigid hierarchies governing who could speak to whom and who entered which rooms. Footmen wore livery designed by a Paris tailor. The chef, imported from France, commanded a kitchen with coal-fired ranges, ice lockers requiring daily deliveries, and copper cookware that required constant polishing. Whitney understood what many of his peers didn't. A mansion this scale wasn't a home but an operating business, one that produced not profit but prestige. And in 1903, when he finally opened the doors for the first grand reception, it worked. Society columnists declared it the finest private residence in America. Foreign nobility touring the United States requested invitations. The Whitney Mansion became the standard against which all others were measured. For 3 years, William Whitney occupied the summit of American social achievement. He entertained senators, industrialists, European aristocrats. He showed them his ballroom, his marble, his 230 windows that caught light like a crown of glass. He died in 1904, just 1 year after moving in, at age 62. And that's when the problems began. Because what Whitney had built wasn't just a house. It was a machine that consumed money. And without his fortune-generating genius to feed it, that machine would devour everything. Let's do the mathematics that family accountants performed monthly, numbers that tell the real story of Gilded Age grandeur. The baseline operational costs for the Whitney Mansion broke down as follows. Servants' wages, $3,500 monthly. Coal and heating, $1,200. Gas and early electricity, $400. Food and wine for family and staff, $2,000. Whitney entertained lavishly. A single dinner party could cost $5,000. Maintenance and repairs, $1,500. Property taxes, $1,800. Stables, carriages, and automobiles, $800. Fresh flowers, linens, household supplies, $600. Insurance, $400. Total monthly, $12,200. Annually, $146,400, approximately $5 million in today's currency. And that's before major repairs, redecorating, or the social season expenses of maintaining a family's position through entertaining. Now here's the brutal part, that money produced nothing, no income, no return. It simply vanished into the operational void, purchasing something intangible called position in a social system that was already beginning to crack. The servant's world reveals the human machinery behind the marble facade. Wake at 5:30 a.m. The scullery maids descended to basement kitchens to light coal stoves, haul water, begin preparing breakfast. By 6 a.m., housemaids moved through 70 rooms opening curtains, emptying chamber pots. Yes, even in 1905, even with modern plumbing. Bedrooms had chamber pots for nighttime convenience, cleaning fireplaces that had burned overnight. The butler rose at 6:30, supervised the footmen in their morning duties, polishing silver, arranging the breakfast room, receiving deliveries through the service entrance. The housekeeper inspected beds, checked linens, assigned daily deep cleaning tasks. Certain rooms rotated on schedules requiring complete furniture removal, wall washing, carpet beating. Laundresses worked in basement rooms filled with steam and the caustic smell of lye soap, washing sheets, towels, tablecloths, servants' uniforms, the family's personal items. In a pre-automatic washing machine era, this meant scrubbing by hand, wringing, hanging in drying rooms. A single formal dinner required 40 tablecloths and 300 napkins. The laundry from one event took 3 days to complete. The kitchen operated like a restaurant. The French chef commanded 4 assistant cooks preparing meals for family upstairs and servants downstairs, separate menus. Different qualities of ingredients, rigid hierarchies even in food. A typical day required 3 full meals for the family, 3 for 43 servants, plus afternoon tea, plus preparation for any entertaining. Then there was the invisible labor, the men who came monthly to clean all 230 windows, inside and out. The specialized craftsmen called in to repair marble, refinish floors, maintain the complex heating system. The florist who arrived daily with fresh arrangements for 20 rooms. The wine steward managing cellars that held thousands of bottles requiring specific temperatures and humidity. And for what? So the Whitney family, William's widow and children, could maintain the social position he'd purchased with this architectural instrument. But here's what the newspapers didn't report, what society columnists didn't discuss. After William died, the income stopped growing while the costs never stopped climbing. His fortune, estimated at $40 million in 1904, sounds infinite. But invested conservatively in bonds yielding 4% annually, that generated $1.6 million yearly. After operational costs for the mansion, after supporting married children accustomed to luxury, after maintaining other properties, the Whitney family was actually living on a narrowing margin. Worse, the social landscape was shifting underneath them. By 1910, progressive political movements were attacking concentrations of wealth. Newspapers published exposes about robber barons and mansions built on exploitation. The very grandeur that had seemed glorious in 1903 was beginning to look grotesque to a changing America. Family tensions emerged. William's son Harry, who inherited control of the estate, found the mansion suffocating, a monument to his father's ego that now imprisoned the living. He preferred his Long Island estate, his yacht, his racing stables. But selling the Fifth Avenue mansion? Unthinkable. It would signal social defeat. admission that the Whitney family couldn't sustain the standard William had set. So they kept it running, kept feeding the beast, even as the mathematics turned brutal. A glimpse into 1913. Harry Whitney's personal ledgers show the Fifth Avenue mansion cost $168,000 that year to operate, and the family occupied it perhaps 90 days total. They were paying $1,867 per day of actual residence. The rest of the time, 43 servants maintained 70 empty rooms, polished silver no one used, cleaned windows no one looked through, heated halls no one walked. Behind closed doors, the family accountants presented scenarios. They could reduce staff, but not without visible decline in standards, not without society noticing. They could entertain less, but that defeated the mansion's entire purpose. They could sell, but to whom? Who else could afford this? The arithmetic trapped them as surely as the marble walls. This wasn't a home anymore. It was a financial obligation clothed in prestige, a trap disguised as a trophy. And then came 1914, and everything changed. August 1914, Europe explodes into war. For wealthy Americans, the immediate impact seems distant, but economic ripples reach Fifth Avenue faster than anyone anticipated. The war disrupted transatlantic trade, source of much Whitney fortune. Shipping costs quintupled. Insurance on vessels carrying goods became prohibitively expensive. The European art market, where American millionaires had purchased cultural legitimacy by the container load, collapsed as chateaux and estates liquidated treasures to survive. Suddenly, the very markers of elite status that justified mansions like Whitney's were being sold at desperate auction prices. Then came the truly devastating blow, the Revenue Act of 1916. For the first time, the United States imposed a meaningful income tax to fund war preparedness, and more critically, an estate tax. The top income tax rate reached 15%, then 77% by 1918. The estate tax started at 10% for estates over $5 million, climbing to 25% for the largest fortunes. Do the mathematics. William Whitney's $40 million estate, if he had died in 1918 instead of 1904, would have faced a $10 million federal tax bill immediately in cash. To raise that cash, families had to liquidate assets. And what's the largest, most illiquid asset most Gilded Age families owned? Their Manhattan mansions. The Fifth Avenue real estate market crashed. Not slowly, violently. Between 1916 and 1920, a dozen mansions were listed for sale simultaneously. Asking prices dropped by half, then two-thirds. Still no buyers. Who wanted to purchase a $2 million mansion that cost $150,000 yearly to operate during wartime economic uncertainty? Harry Whitney watched the neighborhood transform into a graveyard of ambitions. The Elbridge Gerry Mansion at 61st Street, sold to developers, demolished. The Collis Huntington Palace at 57th Street, subdivided into apartments. The Mary Mason Jones residence that had anchored society for 50 years, torn down for commercial space. By 1920, Harry faced an impossible calculation. His father's fortune, eroded by war's economic impacts, by taxes, by the relentless operational costs of multiple estates, was no longer infinite. The family accountants presented projections. If current expenditure rates continued, the Whitney fortune would be depleted within 2 generations. The Fifth Avenue mansion had become the most visible symbol of unsustainable expense. In 1921, Harry made a quiet decision that would have devastated his father. He began negotiations to sell. But finding a buyer proved nearly impossible. The asking price, $1.5 million less than William had spent building it. No private buyer materialized. Who could afford both the purchase price and the operational costs? The American super-rich were transitioning away from urban palaces toward more manageable apartments or country estates. For 3 years, the mansion sat on the market while the family occupied it seasonally. maintaining appearances while bleeding money. The staff was reduced to a skeleton crew of 20. Rooms were closed off to reduce heating costs. The ballroom that had entertained presidents and princes hosted no parties. In 1924, a buyer finally emerged, but not the kind William Whitney could have imagined. A consortium of developers offered $800,000, explicitly planning to demolish the mansion and erect a luxury apartment building. The land was worth more than the palace built upon it. Harry Whitney accepted. The alternative, continuing to maintain an operational dinosaur from another era, was worse than the symbolic defeat of demolition. In 1925, wrecking crews arrived at the corner of 5th Avenue and 68th Street. The process took 6 months. Stanford White's masterpiece came down in reverse order of its construction. First the roof with its imported tiles, then the upper floors, then the ballroom with the Venetian ceiling, then the marble staircase. Workers saved some pieces, selling them to museums and wealthy collectors who wanted fragments of Gilded Age glory. By January 1926, it was gone. 70 rooms, 230 windows, 4 years of construction, 22 years of existence. The site became a vacant lot while developers finalized plans for the apartment building that stands there today. The Whitney family, still wealthy by any measure, scattered to other properties. They survived, their fortune continued for generations. But the crown, the ultimate symbol of social supremacy that William had built at such cost, was lost. And they weren't alone. By 1930, more than 40 Gilded Age mansions had been demolished on 5th Avenue alone. An entire architecture of ambition erased in a single generation. Today, if you stand at 5th Avenue and 68th Street, there's no plaque, no marker indicating what once stood here. A bland 1950s apartment building, decent, comfortable, entirely unmemorable, occupies the space where Stanford White's masterpiece once captured light through 230 windows. But fragments survive, scattered like puzzle pieces across the country. The Metropolitan Museum of Art houses pieces of the Whitney ballroom's carved wall panels in storage. A private collector in Connecticut owns sections of the marble staircase, displayed in a much smaller mansion. The bronze doors, those 20-foot statements of arrival, were purchased by a Philadelphia industrialist and installed in his suburban estate, where they looked absurdly oversized, symbols stripped of their original context and meaning. What remains more powerfully than any physical artifact is the lesson the Whitney mansion teaches about the mathematics of vanity. William Whitney built perfectly for his moment, a monument that worked, that achieved exactly what he intended. For 3 years before his death, he occupied the summit of American social achievement. Those 230 windows reflected success by any measure his era recognized. But he built for a world that was already ending. He couldn't see that tax policy, progressive politics, and changing social values would render his palace not just impractical, but impossible within 2 decades. The tragedy isn't that the mansion was demolished. The tragedy is that it had to be built at all, that a brilliant man spent millions and died just 1 year into enjoying it, leaving his children trapped in a cage made of marble and social obligation. Walk through Manhattan today, and you'll see the descendants of that lesson everywhere. The super rich still exist, certainly. Their fortunes dwarf the Gilded Age in inflation-adjusted terms. But they build differently now. Penthouse apartments, yes, but with staff in separate buildings. Estates in Greenwich or the Hamptons, but with manageable operational costs. Art collections stored in climate-controlled facilities, not displayed in 70-room private galleries requiring full-time curators. The age of the American urban palace, the era when mansions could project power through sheer architectural audacity, lasted barely 50 years. The Whitney Mansion was among its finest expressions and earliest casualties. 230 windows, each one a statement, a declaration, a piece of a dream that cost too much to dream. And in the end, the mathematics won. They always do. The bills piled higher than the marble, the operational costs outlasted the fortune, and the monument became a memory replaced by something smaller, more efficient, more suited to a world that values different things. Stand at that corner now, if you want. Imagine the entrance hall rising 3 stories above you. Imagine the morning light streaming through all those windows. Imagine servants in basement corridors, boilers roaring, silver being polished, flowers being arranged. Then open your eyes to the apartment building, anonymous and enduring, and ask yourself, what are we building today that our grandchildren will find as absurd, as beautiful, and as unsustainable as William Whitney's 230 windows of vanity? The mansions fall, the lesson remains, and the question echoes forward through time, waiting for each generation to answer honestly or ignore it and repeat the same expensive mistakes, dressed in different architectural styles. Glory fades, marble crumbles, but the human impulse to build monuments that declare I have arrived, that survives every demolition, every tax law, every social revolution. It just finds new forms, new addresses, new ways to count windows and calculate status. The Whitney mansion is gone. The vanity that built it? That's eternal.